side of the story.
In spite of the vitriolic reaction in some quarters, over the past 10 years, Ghostwatch has created a loyal fanbase who got it and loved it. Apparently pirate videos were available on the black market for £50, and I've been told by university professors that almost every year at least one student in media studies will want to do their dissertation on Ghostwatch.
Ghostwatch is a fascinating case study into how easily people can be trusting in media and television. Stephen himself said in his essay about Ghostwatch that he wanted the show to be a message on modern TV and what it's becoming. How that line between reality and fiction is becoming more and more blurred. A documentary's main focus is about telling an interesting story, and facts are just a bonus if you even have them. News outlets are more focused on what makes a good headline rather than the context of the story. Shows like Ghostwatch, The Blair Witch Project, Marble Hornets are a certain type of media a lot of people watch when they were young, and just like the Enfield haunting, they were looking at the screen intensely, trying to figure out if it was real or fiction. I think that's a healthy thing to experience at some point in your life, learning that not everything you see is true. To this day, the BBC have never aired Ghostwatch again. It can be found on the Internet Archives, which is where it remains. Thank you guys for watching. I also want to say one last thank you to Audible for sponsoring this video. Take care, everyone.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the Air in The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells.
On October 31st, 1938, a radio broadcast was transmitted across the United States of America, claiming that alien life forms from the planet Mars had invaded Earth, causing a widespread panic across the country, with angry mobs forming in the streets and reports of people taking their own lives after jumping off of buildings. Or at least, that's the story we've been told. Today we explore one of the biggest events in the history of broadcasting, Orson Welles' War of the Worlds.
One enemy remaining.
We begin our journey with the man behind the curtain, George Orson Welles, born on May 6, 1915. Growing up, he garnered a passion for performing arts and radio, and wound up with an acting job at the Gate Theatre in Dublin during 1931, after reportedly walking into the building claiming to be a Broadway star. No one believed him, of course, but his passion and confidence at just the age of 16 couldn't be overlooked, so they gave him a job right there and then. As the months went on, he began dabbling in scriptwriting and directing, eventually landing a job on American radio during 1934, working behind the scenes for several shows, sometimes without credits. The money he earned from the radio went towards his own theatre production called the Mercury Theatre. The productions put together were some of the best anyone had ever seen.
With 4 hit shows in its first year, the Mercury might well close its door on a season unparalleled in Broadway history. But Mr. Welles has long been working on a project for a greater audience, the Broadways of the entire United States.
The success of the Mercury Theatre garnered the interest of the radio station CBS, who offered Welles his own show which would later be called the Mercury Theatre on the Air. The series would be a weekly show, broadcasting over the summer of 1938, each one being an hour-long adaptation of historical pieces of literature. The episodes all had to be performed live due to radio's strict policy of pre-recordings. The general public had been trained to believe everything on the radio was happening as they heard it, and stations like CBS didn't want to betray viewers' trust, so their preference was to have the show live every week on a Monday at 9 p.m.
The Columbia Network takes pride in presenting Orson Welles in the first production of a unique new summer series by the Mercury Theatre on the Air.
The first ever episode was going to be an adaptation of Treasure Island, before Orson Welles scrapped the entire script shortly before the premiere and decided to adapt Bram Stoker's Dracula instead. This dramatic change proved to be a success, as critics and audiences alike adored the show, giving CBS a pretty good indication this show was in good hands.
The director of the Mercury Theatre, the star and producer of these programs, Orson Welles. Good evening.
We're starting off tonight with the best story of its kind ever written. It is Bram Stoker's Dracula. I'll see you in Transylvania.
While it may seem insane to scrap or hold off on script shortly before it's supposed to be performed, it wasn't out of the ordinary for Wells. In fact, he produced some of his best work when he was on a time crunch. Originally planned to only take place over the summer, CBS gave an extension to the show which would see the series continue into the month of Halloween, where the show would eventually leave its mark in human history.
This Monday night concludes the summer broadcast, which had introduced the Mercury Theatre as the first complete theatrical producing company in radio. But the tremendous response which their efforts have drawn from all parts of the country has ensured their continuance with us through the coming months. The Columbia Broadcasting System is therefore proud to announce a new series of weekly productions by Orson Welles and the Mercury Theatre on the Air, beginning next Sunday evening, September the 11th, from 8 to 9 o'clock Eastern Daylight Saving Time.
The 17th episode of the Mercury Theatre on the Air was going to take place on October 30th, 1938. Orson decided he wanted to tackle the renowned piece of fiction War of the Worlds, a story covering an alien invasion from the planet Mars, written by H.G. Wells. His idea was to make this particular episode feel like we were experiencing a real alien invasion across the United States of America. But how exactly could they pull something like that off? Well, Orson came up with an answer. News bulletins.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
An evening of radio programming being interrupted by news bulletins was a very common thing during the 1930s due to so many problems going on throughout the world. The Great Depression had just taken its course, tensions were rising between the US and Japan, the Nazi Party and right-wing radicalism was taking over Europe. Serious events were happening all the time, and radio had the upper hand against newspapers by delivering breaking news to the American public the second it happened, sometimes interrupting the program that was playing at the time. And that's what Orson wanted for War of the Worlds, having numerous pieces of music playing across the first 40 minutes while being interrupted by reports of strange objects landing in several parts of the States. Unfortunately, the first read-through of the War of the Worlds was a complete disaster. It was dull, boring, and uninspiring. So,
terminated. My double's dead. Placing you will grenade. Not kill my allies. Bomb grenade out.
Last player standing. Spike down B.
Turret out.
30 seconds left.
You can trust my bots. They only malfunctioned that one time, and
I need a
honestly,
drop.
she won't miss that finger.
Can someone get this? Thank you.
Hello, welcome. Let's create a main menu in RenPy that uses
Deep breath.
Reyna killed. Barrier reloaded. Your duty is not over.
Who's next?
Reloading.
That's done.
Comment lang.
remaining.
Enemy spotted A. Decoy.
Match point.
One last push. Let's make them hurt.
I need a drop.
Can someone get this?
It was an attack so strangely motivated, yet so vicious, that it confused and shocked a nation to its very core. My name's Adrian, and welcome back to Coffee House Crime. Today we're looking at the Kyoto Animation Studio Massacre of 2019, a scar that runs so deep into Japan's profile that it's considered one of the deadliest attacks since World War II. If you're new to the channel, I post both solved and unsolved cases here on a weekly basis, all while serving you as much coffee as you can handle. So if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to Coffee House Crime. So pull up a chair, grab a coffee and sit back. This is the case of the Kyoto Animation Studio Massacre.
Found them.
Japan. The national crime rate here is distinctively low when in comparison to other countries, particularly when looking at assault or homicide. According to a survey in 2016, Japan boasts the lowest murder rate in the world, with a score of only 0.3 people per 100,000. Saying that, when a murder is present in Japan, it's almost always reported as distinctively fierce. We're in Kyoto for today's case, the old capital of Japan. And although